The sports car segment is one which has been continually weighed down with cars which bring more technology and more performance to the table, but at the detriment to outright driver enjoyment. Now, the A110 is a car that has been designed to go against that and to focus on that relationship between driver and car. The question is that a winning formula? Let's get behind the wheel and check it out. The exterior of the A110 has been designed to mimic the original Alpine, and that's why you've got so many unique touches to it. There are the twin lamps at the front, and this particular car has quite retro-styled alloy wheels too. Around the back there's a large central exhaust, and overall this is a squat and small car on the road. It really is quite hard to take into account just how tiny it is without seeing it in the metal. That said, all of the areas of the car are in proportion, and it's a really smart looking design. We particularly like the Alpine badges put on the flanks. As a strict two-seater, the cabin of the A110 isn't exactly what you'd call spacious. However, thanks to some clever packaging, it doesn't feel as cramped as you might think it would be from the outside. The seating position is okay. It does feel a little bit high for a car like this, but these seats are really supportive and they're nicely quilted in leather in this particular car too. In the middle you've got the main drivetrain functions, and you've got a nice big red starter button which goes with the red sport button, and as we know, a big red sport button is always a good thing. You get some little accents here which show the car's French origins, and all over it feels like a nice place to be, albeit one which maybe doesn't have the best of build quality. You've got a small central screen in the middle which does have Bluetooth and media functions, but it's lagging seriously behind rivals, and it's slow and not that intuitive to use, and even pairing your phone is a bit of a hassle. We'd like to see that changed in the future, but realistically this is a car that's focused around driving after all. That said, things like this should be better. This car is a top spec Legend, or Legend as they'd like to call it, which means that it does get these quilted leather seats, leather on the top, and all manner of high-end features which are designed to make it feel a little bit more luxurious than the standard car. But in our honest opinion, you're just as well served with that base spec car because it feels the most value for money. There's a boot at the front and at the rear, and though both are of a similar size, they're reasonably shallow. That said, there is about enough space for some soft weekend bags there, which means that you will be able to just about live with the A110 in terms of practicality. The A110 uses the same 1.8 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine that you also find in the Renault Megane RS. Here, it produces 249 brake horsepower and 320 Nm of torque sent to the rear wheels through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox. Now, Alpine says that it'll do 0 to 60 miles an hour in under 4.5 seconds and top out at 155 miles an hour. Despite this relatively brisk performance, Alpine says that the A110 will return up to 38.7 mpg combined with CO2 emissions of 166 grams per kilometre. Though the A110 is of course a car which has one eye firmly on performance, you'd be surprised at how much of an all-rounder it is, and it all boils down to the suspension. Alpine has done a very good job of making sure that this suspension setup is so rounded and so applicable to many different roads that the A110 is really easy to live with. On difficult surfaces, which, let's be honest, we find a lot in the UK, the A110 manages to just deal with it. All right, you do get some surface vibrations coming through from those rougher stretches of tarmac, but it's nothing too much to contend with. And it's even comfortable on the motorway. It'll sit at a cruise quite happily, and that does give it a slightly more long-legged ability than some of its rivals. The steering is excellent too, and one of the best things about this car is its size. It's a small car, and that means that you've got more road to play around with. The 1.8 litre turbocharged petrol engine that powers the whole affair also is punchy and torquey, and it's got more than enough reserves to make the A110 feel exciting, and it feels like just the right balance of power for the chassis. And the A110, well, even makes a good noise, so when you do drop a couple of cogs and give it some beans, you're met with a really nice combination of proper old school exhaust noise and also some tuned turbo noise which fizzes and hisses, and it makes it into a really exciting thing. It might sound like a bit of a cliche, but the A110 does feel like a proper old school sports car, and that's something to be relished in this day of overcomplicated and over-designed high-end models. The A110 is a car which flies in the face of convention when compared to other sports cars of a similar price. It's super lightweight, it's really engaging to drive, and it looks amazing too. And all of this combines to make it into a really exciting car. Yes, there are some niggles. The interior quality isn't the best and the screen is frankly abysmal. However, if you do want a car which has been designed specifically to deliver the best possible driving experience, then the A110 represents a real contender against the more established rivals in the segment.